I want to turn now to the valuation placed on the bodies and sexuality of women. Splashed on the cover of Paper magazine this week, Kim Kardashian's impossibly tiny waist accentuated by her most celebrated asset. This photo and the others included in the spread attempted to, quote, break the internet. Now, it didn't quite do that, but it does reveal much about what has the potential to send folks into a tizzy. Kim Kardashian understands what she is able to sell, and sell she does. This week, the online publication Quartz explained why Kim Kardashian is the world's best marketer. Instead of breaking the internet, she's breaking the bank. Kardashian has more than 25.4 million Twitter followers, 21.5 million on Instagram, who have undoubtedly contributed in some way to her reported $45 million personal wealth. In his piece for Quartz, Jason Lynch writes, those eye-popping figures are a direct result of her relentlessly marketing her image and her brand. Even if you don't look at those paper photos in the past day, you were likely aware of their existence and probably even talked about them. Once again, Kim wins. No matter how hard you may try, you cannot ignore her. Now, Kardashian's critics are also hard to ignore. An op-ed in the Grio says Kardashian doesn't realize she's the butt of an old racial joke. Blue Toulousma and many others are quick to point out the photographer of Kim's latest photo shoot is Jean-Paul Goude, and the champagne photo, who was the creation of the Caroline Beaumont, New York, 1976. The iconic photo is found in Goude's book titled Jungle Fever. That book and other works of his have been criticized for fetishizing black women's bodies. Still, fan or critic, love Kim Kardashian or hate her, it is hard to deny she has marketed herself well beyond her initial 15 minutes of reality star fame. And I actually do sort of, like, I've been having all kinds of feelings about this, but it does feel connected to me in that, you know, you can't break the internet with a new book written by a woman, and yet she could. And so there she is, trafficking in the thing that she can traffic in, and then still getting, you know, critiqued for it.
Yeah, I mean, there are several issues at play. On the one hand, you have a woman who has figured out her marketing ability and tied it to her rear end. This is not new. I mean, you had a generation of dancers in hip hop when I go back to the 90s, and you think about black women's bodies being exploited, being fetishized, being sold all day, every day, and yet they were not able to walk away with more than a $500 check from the set. And so here you have Kim Kardashian's example, and one could argue that this is a brilliant American business story, and perhaps even feminist, in that this woman has decided she owns her body and she has agency. On the other hand, you consistently see this reckless, I'm at a loss for words even when it comes to the assault on the black female body. This is really about race. This is really about the black woman's body. I almost would argue that we're now having a conversation about the black woman's body without the black woman. Without the black woman actually in it. This is the Hottentot Venus image that she is now selling, that we are now essentially spending money for.
Right, and so folks who don't know who the Hottentot Venus, that is Sarah Bartman, who was sort of put on display all throughout Europe, and those images, which we actually aren't going to show here, but they were fully exploitive of her. She never made any wealth from it. And she also, you know, for me, Kim Kardashian is also this interesting inversion of the gold digger narrative, because she is often the wealthiest one in her partnerships. That's not quite true in her marriage with Kanye West. But this question of sort of how she might protect herself and her assets, and yet they're assets that are often about sort of the way in which the male gaze looks back on her. And so I'm wondering, like, when we see a woman made wealthy through this form, how that then tells a different story about marriage and connection and partnership.
Well, I think probably Kim Kardashian getting into this marriage thinking that Kanye was and is more wealthy than she, then the tables may be turned in the future, because they do have a prenuptial agreement, as we believe. I read about it, and it's pretty ironclad, and it appears that she would be getting more than Kanye at the end of the day. So again, we go into a marriage thinking one way, like the Ham divorce, which there was no prenuptial agreement, and unfortunately now She could have set how much she would have received in the event of divorce, and it would have been much likely that she would have gotten more than $1 billion. So for me, I look at marriage as a business enterprise, and I think most people don't look at it so much so, but it's important that they do. For me to comment on Kim Kardashian, because I don't have her derriere, I don't think I can. What I can say certainly is that I think it's a teachable moment for women as role models. No matter what, 25 million people following her, people are watching her every move, especially young women out there. And they need to understand you don't have to look like her to get ahead in this world, to make money, to actually get educated, use your brain, not necessarily your mind, and not necessarily your body. And if you can use your body, do it in an elegant way.
Okay, all right. So this is exactly where I want to come. I know Jamie's raising her hand, but I want to come to you on exactly this, because it was kind of an interesting week. I mean, on the one hand, you've got the paper mag, cover. You've got web traffic that just is enormous over whatever their previous, web traffic was. They'd gone, like November 12th, 6.6 million page views and up to 15.9 compared to what they used to average about 25,000 a day. But she actually didn't break the internet. Turns out you compared the Kardashian image to the comet, and in fact the comet beat Kim Kardashian, and yet I guess part then though of what I wonder, and it goes back to this idea of what is women's work worth. What we pay women who do domestic labor that seems like it is the work that wives and mothers do is a pittance. What preschool teachers make versus what college professors make, what people who clean your home or do elder care. But what we pay women who provide us with that desire to control or see or view their sexuality, like, we have created a marketplace where this is a more valuable way to be a woman.
Well, okay, again, I'm like, yes and no. One,
okay,
I mean, obviously for women who are working in strip clubs around the country, who are being coerced into prostitution, it's not an economically viable alternative, right? So that with Kim Kardashian, and at this particular moment, and it's really kind of vexing for feminism, because on one hand, there's this idea of agency, and the other idea of exploitation, and where does someone like Kim Kardashian fit into that? I mean, the reason maybe that she feels so comfortable at this point exposing her body in this way is because we all got introduced to her under duress. She didn't expect that video of her and Ray J to be leaked, and then that's what they then turned into a kind of profitable thing. So her body was already exposed and consumed by millions of people around the world, and now she's determining how we consume it, how we receive it. But I also want to say, and this is to your point about the invisibilizing of black women's bodies, right? So here Kardashian, even if it's a kind of backhanded compliment, is seen as an innovator. Jean-Paul Gaultier is seen as a dynamic innovator. And at the same time, the black women, whether it's Grace Jones or Carolina Beaumont, are not seen as these, creative innovators. Their bodies are used as part of his repertoire to create an aesthetic, and then someone like Kim Kardashian comes in and both references the black woman's body and then removes it at the same time.
Do you think she knew about it?
Yeah. I think it's like, I had promised I was going to explain what citational is. That's what I meant, that she was citing back to that previous picture. Speaking of which, is another citational thing that we're going to talk about. It is a tweet that cited the paper mag cover. When we come back, I'm going to get my comedian on what I thought was one of the funniest tweets in response this week.